All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I'm Onebar with Lupagus. We got Jake in the middle, the man to go to for all Rams content. I had a chance to be on a show with him yesterday. Great stuff. Jake's links will be down in the description. You're almost at 30,000 subs.
Wow.
I was closer until YouTube deleted like 700 of my subs because they went through. I don't know if you saw yours go down at all, but they did their spring cleaning, and I'll just say I'm not going to celebrate getting to 29,000 for the second time.
Let's go.
But I appreciate you guys.
Well, and that's not only. You got the lounge now. You got Yankees channel. You're a busy dude. I just watched. You had Andrew Whitworth on.
Yeah.
Jake's the real deal. So get your butts over there and give him a sub. It's fantastic. And like I said, you seem like a great guy. I'm not going to like you very much on Monday night just for about 3 hours. Other than that,
yeah, exactly.
After that, it's game on, man.
We'll be friends again after that.
Hey, I got a lot of respect for you guys. Getting to talk with you. A lot of respect. A lot of respect for the Vikings. A lot of respect for Kevin O'Connell. And I'm a big Blake Cashman fan. This is somebody I interviewed, coming out of Minnesota, and I've actually stayed in contact with him. He's come on my show a couple times. I actually sent him a text like a week ago asking if, he wanted to come on the lounge. And, I said, I'll be rooting for you guys as long as, if the Rams get knocked out. And now you guys are playing the Rams, and he's not getting back to me. No. So
I don't blame him, man.
I don't blame him either.
I
want it. Yeah, get back to me in 2 months. I'm totally good with that. But
he's been fantastic this year. Jake, I want to ask you. A lot of good teams in the NFC in the playoffs this year. If you could have picked one to have your first round matchup against, who would you pick?
That's it.
Like anybody, right?
Any team that's in the playoffs.
Anybody that's in the playoffs.
Anybody. Okay. NFC. I think the first round. I hate saying this, but I think the easiest matchup would be against the Packers. Mm-hmm. Now the Rams haven't beaten the Packers since Matt LaFleur took over, but I feel like that's the team. Jair Alexander's out for the year. Jordan Love is clearly banged up. I think the Rams had a shot to beat them without Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, 3 of the 5 offensive linemen out. A lot of injuries, and they still, were a drive away from beating them. So, yeah, I think I'd say the Packers, because Jaden Daniels does so much that I think can really hurt this Rams team. I don't want to overlook the Vikings here, but, I think I'd say the Packers, and then I'd probably after that, I would say Tampa. I think Tampa's good, but I also think that the Rams could beat Tampa. So in that order, I think it's those two. Call me crazy.
I'm just glad you didn't pick the Vikings. That would have been very rude, and I would have been very
They
upset.
won 14 games, man. Tampa did not look great. I give Baker a lot of credit to find the will to win against a decrepit, terrible Saints team without Derek Carr at home. I know that's not sounding like I'm giving him credit, but he did find a way to win that game. Had an incredible touchdown pass because it did not look good early on.
No.
So,
all right, we've seen. Before we get into the Vikings Rams, a lot of videos from LA, crazy, horrifying fires and everything. Do you think there's actually a chance they have to move this game?
I do. It's not really being talked about nearly enough, but. First off, my heart is with everybody in LA that is going through this. I actually have a very close family friend that is going through this. Actually texted him yesterday. He's in the Palisades, and I can't stress enough. I want everybody to be safe. It is disgusting, the type of videos that I'm seeing. And that's all you can really hope for. There's nothing we can do. And unfortunately, what a lot of people don't know, because you see these nimrods on, the internet that are like, run out of the house. It's like, it's not that simple. There's fire like engulfing the whole area. So if you run out, you're going to breathe in all that smoke right away, or you're going to be burnt to a crisp. So it's a really, really bad, situation. And I do think the air quality could be bad enough where they have to move this game. And I think if they moved it, It would go to Arizona, I think. I think that's probably where they would play it. I have no inside knowledge on that, but I think it would go to Arizona. Maybe it goes somewhere else. I can't see San Francisco. I can't see anything like that, but Arizona feels like the best bet because you're staying on the West Coast. It's a dome, so you're kind of getting that same feel. So that would be my prediction. But I think it's something we got to monitor, guys. I mean, the NFL is not about to push this thing to Tuesday or Wednesday and then push the rest of the playoffs because, I mean, the Super Bowl's set in stone. They've already sold those tickets. They're not moving the Super Bowl. So that's why, unfortunately, it really creates a tough thing here. And, it's also kind of why the Monday night game is kind of, it puts them in a weird spot as it is. So, yeah, I think it would be in Arizona if that has to, be relocated.
A lot of Vikings fans in Arizona. I mean, that would be if they had to move that thing, it's painful. I mean, it sucks they'd have to do it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that would almost be a positive for the Vikings, obviously.
Well, it kind of reminds me, with kind of what the Rams went through the year they went to the Super Bowl. There was the fires that they went through, and they actually moved the game, not because of the fires. They moved the game because Shakira had absolutely destroyed, the Azteca Stadium in Mexico because they were supposed to play in Mexico against the Chiefs. And that was a Rams home game, and then they end up moving it to the Coliseum, and you get that 54-51 incredible Monday Night Football game. So they've moved venues before, and I really think that is in the cards this time because you have to know where you're playing your game. This is a postseason game. So if it gets to Thursday or Friday and the air quality looks really bad, I could see them making that decision.
Well, let's talk Vikings Rams. Vikings different team than when we played you guys earlier. We got Blake Cashman back. T.J. Hawkinson is now in the mix, but like you said yesterday on the show, LA seems like they're a little bit of a different team now as well. What's the biggest difference between the team we played earlier and the team we're going to be playing on Monday?
Yeah, I think the defense right now, and I would say the offense doesn't look as good as it did in Week 8. It had its moments. The Patriots game, Stafford throws for 4 touchdowns. The Bills game, they score 44. But it's been kind of, all over the place. And the defense has really stepped up. And, I think that game, when you look at it, I mean, you had a backup left guard playing. You didn't have Tyler Higbee, who I think is going to be a very key player on this offense. I really do think that, Akello Witherspoon only playing 8 snaps in that game against the Vikings, he's been key and critical. He's been huge down the stretch, so he wasn't really starting. And then, Omar Spates having his first ever game, which he looked good in, but he is a much better football player now than he was in Week 8 as, a first-time starter. So, I think that there's a lot of, maturation when you look at just this defense and how things have gone down. So I do think this is a different team defensively. I think offensively, this will be the healthiest they've been all year except for losing Blake Corum. But, Rob Havenstein will be back and, they'll be ready to go there. So I think it really, remains to be seen because, I think we always look at when it comes to that Puka Nacua day where, I'll never forget, I got the news at 8 a.m. and I broke the news and people thought I was kidding, whatever. They're like, yeah, he's actually going to play. So, he ends up playing that game and they found out the Vikings did 3 hours before. And that's been kind of used as an excuse in a sense, we weren't ready for it and whatever. But I would also, while I agree with that to an extent, I would also challenge the other side of this. Because Puka Nacua was kind of this last, late addition, hey, we're just going to throw you out there and see what you do. He wasn't running an offense. He wasn't the focal point of this offense in a way where, he was fresh, he was ready to go. I mean, they were trying to ease him in. I think they really felt like just based on where they were during the season, at that point, they needed him to play against a really good Vikings team. So they made that decision. Maybe a little reckless when you think about it, but they don't win without him. So I think now, You talk about Puka Nacua, one playoff game he played last year against the Lions. The lights are not too bright for him. You're going to get him now with a full week of participation, unlike no practicing. And you're going to get him now who's had, 8-9 games of play and was 10 yards away from 1,000. So I think that also goes into the swing of things there. That's what makes this team different. But I think mainly it's the defense.
Nice. So tight ends have kind of been feasting against your guys' defense in recent weeks. Do you see a world where your defense can contain Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson?
Contain, I guess, to a degree, because I think this team is not, they're okay. I mean, when we look back at week 8, they gave up over 100 yards to Justin Jefferson, and they were totally fine with that. They ended up, really bracketing him in the second half and, kind of kept him at bay. And, I think really the big thing for the Rams, especially their defense, is they're not afraid to give up yards. They just can't give up touchdowns. And they've forced a lot of fourth downs, and they're the best fourth down defense in the playoffs, measuring the last 9 games of the year. So they've been really good and they've been forcing those fourth downs in the red area, and that's where they want, that's where they want teams, right? Because it's like, all right, if you take the points, we won anyway because we only gave up 3. And if you go for it on fourth down, we're going to stop you. And so that's kind of how the Rams have been operating. They do things a little bit different. There's a lot of rotating. I mean, you have a lot of different guys. That's secondary. Right around week 8, you were still seeing like kind of the growth of, a Cameron Kinchins, rookie out of Miami. Seeing the growth out of a UDFA in Jalen McCullough out of Tennessee. Those guys have picked up a significant role since, a lot of big-time plays since that. They both had 4 interceptions on the season, which is crazy. You got Cam Curl, who's been playing his best football as of late. Quentin Lake has been huge for them. So, I think like a lot of people look at the secondary as chopped liver because a lot of these guys aren't like household names, but like I would challenge you, like a lot of these guys actually are very, very good. And, while they're not known right now, they might be known, after this playoff run potentially. So, we'll see what ends up happening. But, Darius Williams was on that Super Bowl roster and he really struggled, early on in the year, dealt with some injuries. He's playing his best ball. So there's a lot of guys doing their thing. Roseboom and Spates, the linebackers, have been playing well. I think what we can expect is that the Rams are going to play more man coverage than they normally play. They're going to go and look at that game against Brock Purdy for reference, where Brock Purdy will pick you apart when you play zone defense. But against him on Thursday Night Football, in the pouring rain and, short week after the Bills game, they were not afraid to, man up and just have that pressure get to him. And, you look at that Lions game and, I said this to you, Onebar, in our show that we did on Roundtable. I said, look, I'm not taking the entire season away from Sam Darnold after that performance. I don't think that performance was the best, but I also don't think, it was all his fault. That offensive line gave up 26 pressures. So, it's not just that shouldn't just define who Sam Darnold is. He's had a great season. He deserves credit. But I do think at the same time, the Rams are going to challenge him. And the Rams have a lot of respect for him. There's been a lot of stuff that I've heard that, if God forbid Stafford retired or whatever after the season, they'd absolutely be interested in Sam Darnold. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The familiarity with Kevin O'Connell and, the things they do, very similar to what the Rams do. So they know who he is. They like him a lot. It's not anything like, oh, we don't buy into him. He's just a guy. But I do expect them to continue to press those buttons, blitz. They've been using a lot more creative blitzing, using the corners and safeties and even some delayed blitzes that have gotten in. And this was a team that wasn't blitzing at all earlier in the year. So I think that's another thing that has changed. But, as far as that goes, I do think because you will see a lot of that man coverage, it's going to be, hey, Justin Jefferson, can you beat Ahkello Witherspoon or Darius Williams one-on-one? Absolutely. You can beat them one-on-one. But at the same time, can you beat them every single time? And I don't think so. And in addition to that, when you have Jared Verse and you have Braden Fisk and you have Kobe Turner and Byron Young, now can you do that? And, while you beat them, can Sam Darnold get enough time to throw this football? And that's really what's going to end up being the case. Doesn't mean they'll never play zone, but I expect them to play a lot of man in this game.
Man, Jared Verse, the dude did the skull chant the last time we played him. I hope he gets knocked on his ass. I hope somebody.
There was a reason for that.
What? Please.
So I was because I don't love showing up a team. I'm old school. I'm 29, but I have like kind of that old soul mentality, and I don't like showing up a team like that. But I actually understood when he explained it. One of the Rams players went down, and there was a skull chant going on at SoFi Stadium during that time. So he kind of took that personally and wanted to kind of clap back at those people, specifically. Wasn't necessarily against the Vikings or any of the players, but he ended up saying that after the game because he was questioned about that. And he said, one of my brothers went down, and all I heard was skull, skull, skull. And it's like, that's not the time to be chanting that. So then, he made sure to do that back to them. But I don't think he meant it as like, I hate the Vikings, screw the Vikings. It's not like the 49ers where, these two teams absolutely despise each other. Everything nothing is off limits when it comes to those two teams. No, I think there's a lot of respect among these two organizations. I don't think it was anything malicious. But I totally understand why Vikings fans are like, what the hell, man?
That's fair. I still hope it bites him in the butt a little bit. Skull chant going on the road. I'll take that. I like that. Maybe not do it then. But all right. I know the Rams, health-wise, Stafford sounds like he's got what McVay say. He's got, just regular bumps and bruises along the road. But health-wise, how are you guys coming into this game?
They're as healthy as they're going to be. They lost Blake Corum, unfortunately, for the year, so that's their backup running back. I do think they were really pressing to try to get him more opportunities. I think Ronnie Rivers, because of the pressing and drafting him in the third round, Ronnie Rivers is probably the better back at this point in his career. He's the veteran, better in pass protection, better, he can be utilized in the pass catching area of his game. So I actually think, in a way, it's almost a little bit, and I hate saying this, especially when injuries are involved, but it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise because, you hate that for Blake, but he's a rookie, and he hasn't really been able to do much this year, and, he hasn't been great in pass protection, whereas Ronnie Rivers played in that playoff game against the Lions, so he has that experience in a playoff game, and also, he's just made strides. We see Week 18 against Seattle, he's stepping up into the face of pressure, great blitz pickups, saving Jimmy G's skin. I think that'll translate if they need to use him. With that said, though, I think Kyren Williams, a week off. Sean McVay wasn't afraid to use him. It was 59 carries over the course of 4 days with the Bills and the 49ers. Kyren Williams with a week off, he might get the ball 35 times and might have a 98% snap share. So you probably won't see Ronnie Rivers, but they did actually go out and bring back a familiar friend there in Royce Freeman, who was on this roster last year to add some depth. Good pass protector, had his best career. He had his best year of his career since back to 2020 with the Rams last year, averaging 4.1 yards per carry. So I think that was just to get somebody in the building there. I don't think he's going to be like a focal point of the offense. He just got signed. But, yeah, I think, as far as it goes, the Rams are about as healthy as they're going to be. John Johnson came back as well. He's activated. He was the PFF highest graded safety for the first 2 weeks, missed the rest of the season up until now. Tyler Higbee is the big one. Getting him back, getting him going in the Jets game and then the Cardinals game, getting him his touchdown and got to see what he could do against the Seahawks last week. I think he is the X factor in this one because the thing about the Rams is while they've struggled as an offense and they struggled in the red zone, we have not really seen them fully healthy like this. And they have a lot of guys that can do some different things in the red zone and create some different matchups because you talk about Kyren Williams, who just has this nose for the end zone. He scores as many touchdowns as anybody, from scrimmage. Then you have, Cooper Kupp, who in the red zone, I trust him. Reliable hands. He's not the same guy, but in the red zone, that's different. Puka Nacua is a superstar, and Demarcus Robinson has caught 7 touchdowns this year. I think he had 2 in the game against the Vikings in Week 8. So, when you have all those guys, you have to imagine the bootleg to Tyler Higbee is going to be open in this one, and I do think they'll have that opportunity. And I think 89 is the guy to look out for, and 79 playing right tackle is just as key and critical as having 89.
Damn. Well, there's no doubt these Rams are very, very good. You're talking about, you're making me get a little nervous here, but
don't do it, Lupagus. Don't do it.
What's the number one weakness? Number one weakness on this Rams squad?
Yeah, while I was talking up the offense, what they could do, the number one weakness right now is the offense itself. No explosives, really, right? And this is a team that I think is going to try to beat you over the head with the short area passing attack, and I think they can do that. The Vikings leave the middle of the field open more than anybody in the league, so I think they can hit them with a seam buster or two. But for the most part, this is not your explosive Rams from 2021 when they went to the Super Bowl and won it. This is not, the Jared Goff Rams throwing, 54. I mentioned that earlier, 54-51 against Kansas City. The 44-42 game against the Bills kind of, reminds you that there's something there. If they get things going, they could score a lot of points. And they've had, opportunities, and Stafford's had multiple games throwing 4 touchdowns. But at the same time, they just haven't been that way consistently. So I feel like when you look at just the lack of explosives, it doesn't really give them much of a bailout here if the Vikings can't be stopped, because the way the defense is playing is great, but they're still young. And if the Vikings, who have already seen them, if they're able to take advantage and they just, have their way with this defense, I don't know if the Rams are going to be able to win a shootout against all the weapons that the Vikings have. And I understand that's hard for people to grasp, because they talk about the Rams. It's like anytime the Rams are good, they have Sean McVay. Like, they're an explosive offense. They're not. They don't have an explosive back. Kyren Williams is really good, but he doesn't have that home run hitting ability. They don't have a guy on the roster that has that home run hitting ability from a running back standpoint. Jordan Whittington has that home run hitting ability, and he's explosive, but they don't use him enough. Tutu Atwell, explosive, don't use him enough. And, Cooper Kupp isn't the same player. So, while Puka Nacua can do his thing, he hasn't had those big explosive plays this year. It's been a lot all through, the air yardage, essentially. Like, normally, you haven't really gotten him in those opportunities. So, that's really what they're lacking. I would say that's their biggest weakness. I know a lot of people look at the secondary. They'll look at the offensive line that's 30th ranked in the league, and there's a reason for that. They've been hurt all year, but I think a fully healthy offensive line I'm not at all worried about. I think what it comes down to is the lack of explosion. If they cannot have those explosives, at all, then it really makes your margin for error slimmer and slimmer, and it's already so slim when you get into January. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say.
Nice. I feel better. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it makes me feel a little bit better. Once again, we got Jake Ellenbogen joining us. Links down in the description. Does a fantastic job over there. This has been wonderful. Before I ask you how, and I already know how you think this game's going to shake out, but our viewers don't. I got to ask you, Pennywise, you got Michael Myers mask in the background. You're like a horror movie fiend. What do you got? What's up with that?
Yeah, I just wanted a backdrop that represented just me. So, I got my Rams jersey. You guys can't see it's cut off, but I got Rams helmet, the 2018 Michael Myers mask. I got the 1978 Michael Myers mask behind me. Spider-Man is being covered up as well. Rams helmet, the Super Bowl 56 logo, signed Robert Woods football. Then I got my Funkos. I'm a big Dragon Ball fan, so I got all that stuff there. So it's just, it's all me. That's Mandalorian helm, and got my Yankees, helmet in the back, got a New Jersey Devils hat. You can't see it. It's totally covered up behind me, but it's there. So I just wanted something that just kind of embodied, what I am essentially. And I wanted to have everything. And, I definitely get a lot of comments about that. I had Jordan Rodrigue, of The Athletic, cause she covers the Rams, when I was at my folks' house, because I moved out, I'm in an apartment now, But I didn't have this nice little setup. I had a decent setup, but not that nice. I had the Michael Myers mask in the background, and she's like, if that moves, I'm out. Just full stop was like, I am out. So,
nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, that's that. But no, I appreciate it.
No, that's sweet. I would probably chuck one of those on when you're doing an appearance on a show just to mess with somebody. All right. Obviously, you can tell. I mean, it's funny when you're looking on Twitter, looking wherever, like Rams fans are very confident, and they should be. They're a good team. Vikings fans, very, very confident. Like, we're going to win this game. They're a good team, whatever. So it's going to be a damn good game. But let us know how you see this shaking out. It doesn't need to be a score by any means, but how do you see this thing shaking out when all is said and done?
Well, I'll give you a score. I think it'll be 24-20. I think there's some Rams fans that are, not really understanding that this is the playoffs, and to come out and just blow out a 14-win team that you've already seen and they've already seen you. I just don't think that is living in reality. I always say let that happen, but don't predict it. I predicted one blowout this year. I learned my lesson. You know what game that was? I'll tell you what game that was. It was week 2 against the Cardinals. There was a blowout. It wasn't the Rams. 41-10 on the other side of things. And I was like, this isn't even going to be close. I know what they did against the Bills last week, but the Rams are just so much. Yeah, not doing that again. So, yeah, 24-20. I think it'll be a really close game. I expect this to be a grinded-out style game like the Rams have been playing. And I keep saying, people want to look at this as a negative thing. The offense hasn't showed up. And, they won all these games ugly, right? Oh, they barely beat the 49ers. They barely beat the Jets. They barely beat the Cardinals. I look at it as like they weren't winning those games in the Super Bowl seasons. Like throughout Sean McVay's career, they lose those 3 type of games every single time. Those were games that you're like, oh, come on. Like it just never, every single time, it just never went their way. And this year, they've won so many games. Like that Bills game, they should not have won in the past. They win that game going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen. I just feel like this is a different team. They're unconventional. So I'm not sitting here saying they're the most explosive, they're dominant. No, they're going to win in a different way, but they are going to suffocate you if you keep them on the field. And, I know Brian Flores is going to try and blitz on first down, but that plays into Stafford's hand. I mean, this isn't a young quarterback who's going to, have issues. And, I have a really, like, the feeling I get is that, back when Jared Goff was the Rams quarterback, this game would have absolutely terrified me because this is the type of matchup, and I know what he did with the Lions, but it's just different, man. I mean, the Lions have the best offensive line in the league. They have a lot of stuff going for them right now. But when I watched Goff, also he's older now. When I watched Goff, he'd have some great games, but if you pressured him, he was as good. He was as bad as anybody. And this game would have scared the crap out of me because you have a guy who's not afraid to blitz all day long. Whereas with Stafford, he's seen everything. I mean, this is the best quarterback in the NFC. Regardless of the stats and everything, we're now in one-game territory. And in one game, I don't care if Jalen Hurts had a better year statistically. I don't care about anybody having a better year statistically. If I need one game, Matthew Stafford historically has been one of the more clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. And so I think right now, currently, in these type of games, there's not anybody I would take over him except maybe Josh Allen, just because he was built in a lab, and he can win in so many different ways. But I've seen Stafford quite literally make every single throw on the field. And he still makes throws that I always say, if you guys ever play Madden, which I don't anymore, there's no way that you could even go into a video game and create that type of catch animation that Puka Nacua just had to make because Stafford threw that ball. Like, he makes these throws where you're like, and obviously Nacua has to come down and make that catch. But, I mean, he put the ball, it was out of bounds, like way over Nakua's head, but he knew Nacua would go up, get it, and get both feet in bounds. He never had a doubt of it. And so when you have these crazy throws that are in play that other guys just can't make, it's a really hard test to stop this guy. And I'll be honest with you guys, last year in the playoffs, he went God mode. I don't know if you remember, but against, the Lions, I mean, he was astronomically better than Jared Goff in that game. And, I mean, if Puka gets a call, who knows? Maybe the Rams win a 1-point game that they lost. Who knows? But the point I'm making here is that you take any quarterback in the league, I mean, the way Stafford is when the postseason comes, despite the fact everybody said he couldn't win in the postseason, this guy he's on another level. And you just gave him a week off, just like last year. And we saw what he did last year after a week off. I think he can do that if they need him to do that.
Well, I can't say you've made me feel great about this game as a Vikings fan. I mean, you're right.
I went teeter-totter, right?
Yeah, you're messing with our emotions a little bit here. But
yeah,
it was fantastic, man. We
thanks,
appreciate
Jake.
you hopping on. Again, links down in the description. I'll put check out the lounge. Check out the interview with Andrew Whitworth. It's solid stuff. Give him a sub. JK. No good luck on Monday, man, but you're a great dude. And after that game, whatever happens, good luck after that.
Hey, likewise.
Yeah,
appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.